The worst user experience is when you can't understand it or you can't reason with it or you don't know why this thing's crashing.
The user needs to see where they've gone and be able to go back to where they came from, basically. So that's where those little menus. Yeah.
You can iterate a lot quicker in design than we can, building something in a dev environment.
Massive challenge is the right way to describe it.
Hi and welcome to the Engineering Triangle, our podcast about how to make the best smart machines and IoT as fast as possible. Today we'll be focusing on how we design user experiences for web and native app software using Figma. I'm here with Kathryn Anema, our senior graphic designer. Kathryn has 6 years experience in creating visual identities and designing user experiences. Thanks for coming on.
No worries.
Kathryn's been with us, for more than 6 years?
It's just gone 6 years.
Just gone
now.
6 years.
Just beginning of August.
Feels longer.
Yeah, it does feel like longer.
And first started on it was the extension of the ShockWiz project.
Yeah, it was basically coming on that and creating little missing bits for that, like icons and
app stuff to
filling
start
in
with.
gaps. Yeah,
and then since then it's sort of progressed into sort of complete identities for complex products.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
convey that to the target audience.
So you have to take a lot of technical jargon and try and make it into
and
something
simplify it. Get it to look really appealing. Yeah.
So we're talking about Figma today. Previously we were using Adobe XD and we're still using a lot of the Adobe ecosystem to do general design and things like that, but Figma has become a major part of our workflow, especially for web app and mobile applications.
Yeah, I'll go to for UI UX design. It's just quicker. I can do things quicker. I can replicate things quicker. One of the big things about it that I really, really like is probably the sharing feature. So the commenting, which is what we use a lot. When we review, we'll put a pin basically on what we're looking at and we'll comment on that and we'll tag one of the designers like myself and Nicole.
We were using Adobe XD and I remember it was kind of like a static file that lived on OneDrive or on the server.
Yeah.
Only one person could kind of have it open at once.
Yeah.
So Figma's created that web-based collaboration where, you can actually see where the other person is within the file. You can follow them around. You can tag people. You can do all those sorts of things. So it has definitely changed the workflow a lot. I think I saw an article the other day saying that Figma wasn't supposed to be, wasn't ever designed to be Figma. It was actually designed to be like an open GL visualization thing that they then made into a tool. It's obviously the largest product in the world at the moment for graphic design, valued at something like 20 billion recently when Adobe tried to acquire it, but then it fell through. Which is probably neither here nor there, but it's a great tool for collaboration. It's really changed our workflows. And it's definitely more collaborative now, which is awesome.
I couldn't go back to XD.
What's your favourite app, the best user experience you've ever had?
Stan is something I use a lot, and Spotify every day. Multiple times a day, And one of my favourite things about those types of apps is that you'll see a lot of content at once, which is so nice when you're trying to pick something to watch or listen to.
But it's not overwhelming though.
Yeah, no, the way they organise it is it's vertical scrolling, but you've got your little categories up and down, and then you can scroll left to right amongst those categories. You don't have to actually deep dive anywhere unless you want to read more about whatever. Yeah, what's your favourite?
Apps that aren't clunky.
What about Meter for your
The Meter
your
Probe is great. Yes, it is. The Meter Probe is absolutely awesome. It's just a cooking device that has 2 temperature sensors, and the device is actually Bluetooth. It's got it all inside this little steel probe. It has a temperature probe for inside the meat and it has a temperature probe on the outside for your air temperature. And I struggled to stuff up a piece of meat. But again, it's because of the user experience. It's very easy to get into. It's very easy to pair with the device. Yeah. And it gives you just enough information.
I like the use of colours there as well that they've got. I've seen the nice fancy dial with all the colours, the bright colours, It
does scream at you when you take the temperature over temperature. You might damage the probe. I've damaged a few of the probes, but I love them, so I keep buying them. When you use a rotisserie or whatever, it gets really, really hot. It'll actually create a local notification through Bluetooth to your device, and it will scream at you. It sends off like an alarm sort of thing, which is fair enough. You're damaging a piece of equipment. So, great user experience.
You'd want that,
On the same note, really bad user experience. What's the worst user experience? App, web?
Maybe not user experience, but look and feel wise, any real estate related app.
Yeah?
For lodging complaints or maintenance requests, or even just
like tenancy sort of stuff.
Yeah, tenancy stuff. It does what it needs to do.
Does it feel like a form?
But it feels like a form, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not very pretty.
Yeah.
It doesn't look friendly.
Yeah. Probably because it's not.
It's daunting.
I have a few like IoT things. My pool, for instance, has an app to be able to monitor things. It's got a little tiny LCD screen. You've got to click through different buttons. It would be really nice if I could use the settings on the app, but the app's just done to sort of visualize some of the higher level stuff. And whenever you go into the settings, it crashes. And so I think it's like the half done app. I think the worst user experience is when you can't understand it, or you can't reason with it, or you don't know why this thing's crashing, and it's frustrating to me.
User feedback is important.
Yeah, it's just some sort of feedback. Oh, this is not available or whatever. If it crashes, it feels frustrating.
Yeah.
And frustration, I think, is the worst thing. I think, we've seen that with the ShockWiz app, for instance. For years and years and years, we had hardly any, we got a reasonable number of, 4 or 5 stars on the Android app or whatever. But when we released the newest update, because we successively rolled out a few features and a few features were missing, all of a sudden we had a couple of really bad reviews. And it's like, hang on a minute, these people didn't give us a positive review before, but now they're giving us a negative review. Obviously they were the silent minority or silent majority, whatever. They were using this feature that we didn't think was, a big pool of users, but then they gave us sort of a bad review. So it's a funny landscape, that sort of thing. We're doing it all day, every day, because the interactions with smart tech is all basically done through some sort of dashboard, web application or mobile applications. Yeah. Frustration with that is what we're trying to get rid of, and really trying to just give the user the feedback that they want, and in the cleanest possible style. So one of the main reasons why I hired Kathryn was because of her clean style that I really loved. Yeah. We try to focus on that here at Element, because a lot of the things we do are really techie, and tech can be real jargony, and it can be really overwhelming to a lot of people.
Very complicated, very complex, yeah.
So simplification of the messaging is really important. Yeah. What does it take to create a really good user experience with an app?
Plan your app. What are your main user journeys or flows?
Yep.
What is the user going to be doing? Where do they need to go? Just do sort of like a similar to like a sitemap, basic sitemap. Create like a wireframe.
Yep.
Simple enough. You don't have to do that much work, but complex enough that you can see what's on each page. Yeah. And maybe make it clickable so you can click through your user flows.
Because that's one of the big discoveries we often come across, isn't it? We'll usually have an engagement with a client or whatever. We'll have a workshop session. We'll put up some things on the whiteboard. We'll sort of figure out what those things are. We'll get some specifications. You'll start putting it into Figma, laying out those journeys. And as you've laid out the wireframe, we've found that we've missed something, or we found that there's something that needs to be covered or whatever. Yeah. Usually at that point, we'll re-engage with the client. Hey, how about this? How about this? And they're not always edge cases, but some of them are edge cases. But usually we find that the specifications just grow due to now understanding the requirements a bit better. And that definitely happens in sort of the mechanical and electronics worlds as well. Once you start delving into something, you think you've covered it all. Back in the day, I used to work on these big truck trays, and I'd work with a guy called Alan who used to create truck trays for 30, 40, 50 years. Yeah, he would have everything laid out in 2D on paper. Once we got it into 3D, all of a sudden it uncovers something else. I didn't know that because we couldn't see this. So it's the same thing with these, with Figma, for instance. We seem to figure out, okay, the wireframe is enough to get information that we need to do something else. Yeah. We seem to stop projects at wireframe sometimes.
Yeah. Sort of lets them see like what they're getting themselves into. Like, is it feasible? And
the clicking through. So from that point, you go for wireframe, and then from wireframe you can sort of mock up the flow between different pages with different clicks.
So that's when you can sort of see when the user is clicking too much, when they have to deep dive too much. Yep. It's not fun for the user, basically. Yep. The user needs to see where they've gone and be able to go back to where they came from, basically. So that's where those little menus, basically, and you can refine it in the wireframe stage before you move on to design and styling. Yep. Yeah.
We found over the years that some clients can't visualize it in wireframes. We have to go to the more polished versions.
Yeah, you sort of have to throw a few colors, images in there, and sort of add their personal branding touch sometimes, just so that it makes it more theirs.
Yeah.
And they can visualize it better.
Yeah, we sort of have to profile the customer in a way, or understand what it is that their needs are and what their desires are. Some customers will really pick up the wireframes and run with it. Other customers won't be able to get it unless they sort of see it branded in a way, and then we'll just attack it in a different way. Obviously, less detail is better, lower cost, less time, putting the minimum amount of effort to get the maximum bang for buck, but it seems to be dictated by the people, the requirements of the complexity of the app. Simple and clean is our preference.
Yeah, especially with IoT data.
Yeah,
visualizing
IoT,
that.
Yeah, it's
You want to put
overwhelming.
emphasis on your data. You don't want all these little bits around there confusing you or
Yeah. How can a designer create a user experience quickly?
Make sure you have a generic, basic, reusable component library on hand.
Yep.
And then take from that as you need.
Yep.
That allows you to replicate things really fast. Go through there, select what you need for your new project. And that allows you to get something together really quickly.
Yeah. Do you have any design templates for sort of things to start with? We definitely have the library of components that we seem to keep reusing, but do you have any sort of general layouts that you use, or it's always just from the components and select depending what the customer needs?
Maybe in terms of menus, navigation, it's quite generic because what works. We don't really want to fix something that's not broken.
Yep.
Yes, we have that to reuse, but most of the time we'll just figure out. It varies from project to project or client to client.
Reusing the same components so we're not reinventing, back buttons every time.
Yeah, we've got like 3 sizes of each thing as well.
Yep.
3 sizes of button. We show states of the button, so the default state, the clicked state, the not clickable state.
Yep. These all aligned with sort of Ravinder's or the web team and the app team's coding flows?
Yeah. And it's using the similar language as well.
Yep.
So when we build these components in Figma, we name them sort of similar to what the dev guys would.
So we're all on the same page. So again, that's another part of creating a product quickly, is kind of having those things aligned between teams and being able to speak the same languages. What about costs involved with the designing an app user experience? How do those factor into the process? Cost is is time basically for us. I think something we touched on a couple of weeks ago was not getting engineers to do designs. That's one thing we learned early on in Element. If you give a design idea to a developer, they will a lot of the time freak out because they've got to go and do some design work. One of the major reasons why we hired graphic designers or user experience designers in-house was that we want to alleviate the burden of design from the engineers, and engineers work really well when they've got a specific template that they can use, and Figma gives us that because we basically just, the guys grab where those icons are or where the assets are. They grab the asset picture in SVG format or whatever, put it into their code base, different attributes, like you said before, with the different clicked states and things like that, and just place it into the screen. So cost really comes down to letting the professionals do their job in their certain domains. You can iterate a lot quicker in design than we can, building something in a dev environment. For all of our customers, we seem to be developing specific widgets for their particular use case. But, what percentage of the time would be in reusing the libraries we've already got versus developing new stuff? Half the time? More than half the time? Because developing new stuff is
more than half the time, I would say,
yeah. If we can get away with using our libraries just to get a flow down to start off with, we might be able to get more discovery done. And then if we need specific widgets, we can probably try and push that to the back end of the project further on.
We've designed that component library with that in mind, so it's really easy to style and adjust. We publish that library to that file, and then you can access everything. It's really quick to switch components out.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been in the deep, dark depths of Figma with you, Kathryn. I kind of come along these days with the whiteboard and then you just take it all, which is awesome. We've worked on Koodaideri's HydraTune system featuring SafeAdjust native tablet app that technicians can use to remotely perform maintenance on dangerous hydraulics out in the field. How did you approach the user experience for the app?
Definitely with safety in mind. So not putting the critical buttons in the line of where someone might accidentally brush past that.
Yep.
And make a huge mistake.
Yeah, and it was kind of more defined for us, this one, because we were given a specific tablet. It was a ruggedized Android industrial tablet. We had one screen size and one user experience. We didn't have to be scaling devices, so to speak, which is good.
That was really good, yeah.
We've got it up here on Figma. Each one of those individual pieces is an asset that we can basically style from the library. And then we can also bring over the top a customer-specific styling palette, don't we?
Yeah. So that's just your colours, font, little bits like rounded corners or logos or specialised icons, custom icons basically. Yeah.
So the custom icons go in the client's Figma overlay.
Yeah. It's in sort of their style. We'll just put a placeholder icon in there so you get the idea of what's going on. Yeah.
This is where we can basically start to click through the entire user experience.
The user will just come in, open up the app, log in. There's also this cool instructional graphic that would go here to show the user how to scan in using their card, with RFID technology, basically. They'll log in, they'll come to their tuning profiles. So these are things that they can configure to show that you'll see these arrows here that'll basically show you that you can go and click into them.
Yeah, so Figma's sort of showing us there that we can click into that tuning profile. Cool.
Yeah.
If you click somewhere else, you can sort of see where you can click, can't you?
It sort of highlights.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Really cool when you're making this and you're going through and you're making sure you haven't missed something.
Yep.
You can see what's already been interacted with.
And we definitely did this back in Adobe XD as well. It was the same sort of flow, but it was harder to deploy and share with people.
Yeah. I personally found it harder to use the prototyping feature. It was a lot more clunky.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it's easier. This is a better workflow.
Yeah. It was easier to miss something there. Like you wouldn't see a connection that's not there, basically. So a connection between two pages.
Yep.
You can show menus. So what would happen if the user were to click on that button? This will pop up.
This is also something that the customer can then easily come in and change on the fly as well. We can suggest changes, make changes within the day, create a new link. Customer logs on remotely from wherever they are. They can click through the wireframe. You guys can do a Teams meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. All the individual little settings pages.
Every single thing, in that app. You can see all these little
padding, so the padding
here. Yeah. There's actually a dev mode as well where they can see all these little bits, and this is what they work with.
Yep.
So padding, dimensions, all in pixels.
So this is the main tuning screen for the HydraTune device.
This was us trying to understand what would happen.
One of the big things we were trying to do was trying to break it. I remember when we were doing things up on the board, we were kind of trying to visualize if you asked for the device to go to this point, but then the device needs to catch up because it's a safety critical thing and it's not going to get there instantly. What happens when you do that? So you sort of direct it to where it needs to go. It then starts to catch up. You may make a move that needs to go back and forward in different directions. I think we were trying to do that here, right? Yeah. And we did it up on the whiteboard. We all got a bit confused. We're like, let's put it into here. And I think we got to the end of it.
Yeah, the UI sort of needed to show what was happening in real time. This was me walking myself through
I think we were all trying to at the time.
Basically,
So you're sort of suggesting where it needs to go. We were kind of trying to figure out if we go more, then what are the colours
and things like that
do? Yeah.
How do we show overlap? Yeah.
Yeah. So now
without it looking too complicated.
It's trying to go to there, trying to move in the degrees or half of degrees. It's a little bit slow in a way because it's got a massive gearbox on it that takes a stepper motor that's usually very fast, but reduces it by 40 or 50 times. So it gives a massive torque out, but the actual output is relatively slow. And you can request multiple turns. So it's not just this simple 360 degrees. You can request multiple turns. It's coming back to me now.
Yeah.
The pain. We're sort of seeing if someone wants to go much further than, say, a single turn, how are they going to visualize it? And how are they going to get that feedback that they've gone to where they want to go or it's going to where they want to go. And now it's safety critical. They're seeing something else happening. Oh, I need to back that off. So
it gives them enough time to stop that action.
So this was a big, quite an important mock-up that we had to visualize for ourselves. Obviously get the customer on board with it so we all understand it, get the specifications right for not only the app development but the firmware. Electronics not so much, but definitely the user experience and what the customer wants at the end. So this is the list of components that we have developed over the years that then get styled specific to the customer, and then we add the customer specific components over the top.
So this is sort of on the more styled side, but pre-icons, pre-text. This is what this library is, We've got search bars, little drop-down menus, options. These would be sort of the icons that we use. So styled for HydraTune.
Styled
in particular.
Icons,
so all their colours.
It's kind of become second nature that, we put things up on the whiteboard and then all of a sudden they pop out of screens.
Appear,
but there's a lot of work in the background to get to this point. We're currently working on our own data logging and control system, Cranio. A major part of the system is a web app in which users can find their devices and set up their own IoT system, like a visual programming language. It's a massive challenge. How did you approach this?
Massive challenge is the right way to describe.
I have lots of things in my head that I'm trying to get out.
Yeah, constant refinement, constant revision. Yep.
Yeah, but it's also exploration in a way, because there's some things that haven't been done before, and we're kind of using whiteboard is my number one tool, our number one tool. Kathryn comes and sits in on me trying to figure out what something is on a whiteboard. A lot of the time it's me just trying to get it out of my own head and figuring out what this thing could be. But pretty quickly it ends up in Figma, and that's where we can really figure out what it is. You know,
this is more like a final-ish version of what we have.
Yeah, we're going for this cool, very simplified system. So sort of visualizing devices, arranging them into systems. Each device itself needs to be super easy to interact with, which is not an easy task when you're doing web development of something that you have to visualize from a bunch of engineering specifications. The dashboard, for instance, everyone's seen line graphs before, different timelines and things like that. But for us to be able to, look at historical data, be able to look at live data, to be able to select the time period, to be able to zoom in on data and then tag data so we can use it in AI later on. These are the things that we've used in all different tools, but we've never seen it. I've never used it in a web application before. So it's a big project and lots of fun stuff happening in the background.
This hasn't been done before. I've looked, trying to find something to reference. But yeah, this is completely from scratch. Yeah, all the widgets. Yeah. Some of this Cranio stuff can be quite complex. So that's where the wireframe comes in. Yeah. It's really, really handy. So we don't waste time. Yeah. We can see if there's something that needs to be refined or we need to add something to something else before we go and detail it. And
that's one thing that I think some customers can't understand, or they don't understand at the start of a project, that you think you've got everything sorted out when you do it on the whiteboard, but once you actually get into the details, you uncover certain things.
Yeah, you uncover a lot.
Unpack
good and bad.
Yeah, and you want to unpack it as quickly as possible. If you don't discover something right at the end, once you've already done the work, then it could be detrimental to the project and the team.
Exactly.
So we obviously have our own business management software for time tracking. I think it was 2012-ish, something like that. We originally made the first one. It used to be called BusMin, Business Manager. Now it's called BusMin, minimizing the busyness, because busy work is sort of wasted time in our eyes. This internal business management software is something that we mocked up using Figma. And Kathryn and Nicole did all of that in here. It's one of those projects where we knew kind of what we wanted, but we were sort of iterating as we went because we're trying to go really fast. BusMin has been fully fleshed out for a bunch of features that far exceed what we need in the business. It's more, going towards a commercial product. Have we done that in basically the same way?
Yeah, the same way, basically. At first, we had gone and replicated everything that already existed in BusMin. We replicated that in Figma, and then we just added to that. So any features we needed, we'd add with the same styling, using the same sort of components, same sort of layout, maybe with a bit of a refresh, but yeah. Yeah,
so for clarity, we had the original software that was built on someone's flavour of the month, unmaintained software package that was quite hard to get developers in to continue to maintain. So we've rebuilt the back end completely from scratch. And also the previous one was slowing down. The database got very big. It didn't really handle what we needed to do. So we rebuilt the back end and we've rebuilt the front end in React using TypeScript. One of the biggest things experiences that I can share is choose technologies or make sure that the developers working on the technologies is not just the coolest flavour of the month, because the coolest flavour of the month might not exist in 6 months' time.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable, exactly. Even if they're a bit more boring technologies, probably much more sustainable. And again, Figma is a flavour of the month, but it's actually really, really good. And it's got a huge user base and a lot of support online. You can basically Google if there's any issues with it, and other people have come across it. Yeah. That's basically what you want from any technology selection that you make in any sort of product development. Because if that developer or that engineer gets hit by the bus, your project's still got to keep going on. And if their particular flavour is not something that was commonly done, you might find hard to replace that person. We basically use it for time tracking so that every block of work is tracked for the customer. We're making sure that our internal processes are quality, and the team leaders basically sign off each individual block of work. They get billed to the customer or they go to an internal job, or they'll go to an R&D job. This is a rostering system. So scoring KPIs within a business is often done by someone with a spreadsheet, right? But if someone can visualize their KPIs on a dashboard, then everyone's aligned with their incentives. But to be able to hit KPIs, we've got to basically know what the underlying working hours might be. And that means we've got to go all the way back to what is the business calendar, which days are people working, which days they're rostered on. Okay, that day that they're rostered on, we can score the KPIs, all that sort of stuff. So we have to go to all these lengths to, in software at least, to be able to create those things. So we're creating all those different pieces of the puzzle to be able to create an incentivization system that can be then generic and applied to any business.
Yeah, we can visualize all of these stats basically.
Yeah, and you can be as aggressive as you want. You can have a big green tick and a big red cross if you want to.
I like the search.
Ah, yes, that's the KPIs
and search
dashboard.
for pages, search for components, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's like a massive breakdown of these different time periods. The employee will be able to see how many hours they have, what their target is.
Again, mocking things up in UI, not doing any development work until we're happy with this, and then giving a pixel perfect UI to the developers to go and do their job.
Yeah.
Best use of time and cost. Project manager, yeah.
That one was probably the one I spent the most time on.
It's the one that's probably the biggest one, bringing all of our workflows into one place and doing it better than what we've done with Jira, Microsoft Project or whatever.
Better than what we've used,
We're kind of reinventing the wheel, but adding things that are specific to our workflows, like the traffic light system, the RAG system. So if we had a project and certain elements were running over time, then we could have a KPI system which says this particular group of tasks is allocated for a certain number of hours. An employee would say this one's 20 hours. An employee puts a work log in and says, I have completed 50% of it and I've done it in 4 hours. Okay, green, we're underneath the threshold. I've completed 50% of it and now I'm actually at 12 hours. Okay, that's at risk. Okay, now this thing's run over and now we've gone into a red traffic light.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we're currently doing manually. We have a team leader who's usually an engineering team leader who's spending their time to go through logs, aligning BusMin with the time spent versus the ticketed time. Having it all in one place would be amazing. And maybe there is tools out there that do it, but we haven't seen them.
That's all of that, the timeline visualized basically, yeah. Date range, how many days.
All there. That's all for today. Thanks to everyone for listening in. Feel free to like, subscribe and leave a review. Have your say. Hot takes are very welcome. Until next time, make it good, make it fast. See you soon.